I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, April the 16th, brought to you in part by New Generation Supplements, maker of FlaxLick, which is part of the SmartLick line. Being nutritionally engineered means FlaxLick is scientifically formulated to fill common nutritional gaps. It provides targeted delivery of essential nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, protein, vitamins, and minerals. For more information, go to newgensupplements.com. Nothing's changed, and I'm talking about in the last 2 weeks, or really a week and a half, but we've gotten past all the fears and the overreaction and the knee-jerk of the tariffs that we talked about at length last week and at the tail end of the previous week there. And now where are we at? We're right back where we were. We got extremely tight supplies of all classes of cattle. They're all wanting to sell at historically all-time record highs, and we're right back where we started from. So now we're going to have a cattle on feed report here coming up. It's going to be on Thursday because of Good Friday there, so they won't be writing any LRPs on Thursday here, but we've got the cattle on feed estimates, which is the average of the analyst's guess, and not any real big surprises, but it's sure worth talking about. Your on feed inventories for April the 1st, they've got them guesstimated at 98.3 in a pretty narrow range of guesses from 97.5 to 99. Now your placements, which is always the one that's hard to hit, for March, sitting at 103.7% of a year ago's placements. Year ago's placements were really light. Your range of guesses was big like usual, from 99 to 106.4% of a year ago. But most everybody sure thinks they're going to be higher than a year ago. And if you think back, last month we were all happy because the February placements were record light, and that was because we had those bitter cold temperatures, and most of your sale barns were closed 1 week, and a lot of them were closed 2 weeks, and just not any cattle moving because it was so cold. But then when we got into March, the weather broke, and then the market was so good that people just started hauling them into town, and our auction receipts of feeder cattle weighing over 600 pounds was up 21.3% this March compared to a year ago. And you think, gosh, is it going to be that much more? I don't think we're going to use near all of that, because over 600 pounds, people turn cattle out a lot heavier than what they used to, and we've always used that 600 pounds as a benchmark of feeder cattle or stocker cattle. But anymore, people turn cattle out weighing over 800 pounds, let alone 600 pounds. So a good percentage of those auction feeders that weighed over 6 that were bought in March were bought to put in the Flint Hills of Kansas or the Osage, Oklahoma, being turned out somewhere. And so, it's hard to say that they were going to be feeder cattle. But I'm not disagreeing with the average of the analyst guess there at 103.7. I actually think it could probably be 105 or 6. And I don't think that should be bearish whenever that does happen. But your marketings come in for March at 100.7 with a narrow guesses range from 99 to 101.5. But, like we say, things are just right back where they were. We haven't heard hardly anybody saying anything about tariffs. The world is having to react to the tariffs that Trump put on. And now that we've done all this speculating last week and it affected the market so much, now we're right back where we were, and we're going to wait and see what happens. So we'll just wait and see. And I'm sure there's going to be some bad right along with the good, but we'll just have to see how that goes. But these packers are very desperate for cattle, and in the northern plains they're practically begging for cattle already this early in the week. And some of those cattle feeders are sitting back and they're saying, we're really current, and aren't you the same guy that dropped your bid $5 when the market slipped last week? And maybe there's a little feedlot retaliation this week. There's always packer retaliation that we talk about all the time. Maybe your feedlots show a little bit of that this week, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings to hear some of those kind of stories. But we're just extremely tight of all kinds of cattle, and there's people getting out. Was talking with Greg Ryken up there at Yankton, South Dakota on Tuesday, and he mentioned or made note to me that starting to see a lot of brands for sale. And I think a lot of people just think, you want to put a brand on your cattle, you just dream up the coolest combination of your initials and you just whip it out there and put it on. No, that's not the case. When you're in a brand state, everybody has to have their own individual brand, and it's hard to come up with something that somebody doesn't already have. I remember I grew up in New Mexico. We were in a brand state. I had some friends that had formed a partnership, and they had taken the two first letters of each of them's last name and sent in like 25 combinations of a way to make a brand out of them, and got turned down on all of them. You look at those brand books, and they're as thick as a Tokyo phone book there, and they've got in their small print, and they've all got different brands. So when you see brands come up for sale, and they can bring a lot of money, people are getting out of the business. And I'm a little bit surprised to see so many of those brands come up for sale, because those brands are kind of the family shield. I know the brand that my family had, at least on my dad's side, growing up, that his dad had too, was a JH Slash. And sometimes when people see it on stuff, they say, well, that doesn't have a W or anything. No, it's just a really good brand. And so we still have that brand, and I keep that brand current because my father told me on his deathbed that he didn't want anybody else using that brand. So I guess that's the only way I can guarantee that. So, but I'm kind of surprised to see so many of them that are giving them up. But they might have been ones they didn't use all the time and just had. Probably not the one out on the front gate. But when you got a lot of brands coming up for sale, and where do they sell them? At the sale barn, where producers are at. Face South Dakota's got several coming up for sale. And you just know there's people getting out of the business. It's a good time to get out if you want to get out. We hate to see people get out, but if you're going to do it, might as well do it when all classes of cattle are selling at all-time record highs. We're starting to see fewer producers. It just costs so much money now. You have to be able to borrow a lot of money. And we're seeing up in the northern plains and in the mountain states there's some ranches that are being vacant out there. And part of it due to the predator problem out there. They've got these wolves that the government so wisely introduced there. These cattle are really expensive. You can't afford to have them out there just for wolves to eat, and then you can't do anything about it. And you got other predator problems out there too. And then the hunting leases are taking so much of our ranch country out of production. And these people that like to hunt, just looking for a way to get outdoors and be rugged and manly and all that kind of thing. And they want to hunt, and they've got big money to do it, and they're willing to pay big money. There's big companies now that handle these hunting leases, and they get them all grouped together, and they can take a lot of people out hunting. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, it's just taking them completely out of cattle production. And you think, well, why can't they still run cattle and hunt too? You can, but they just don't even want to fool with it. Selling a $2,500 calf, that's nothing to them. They're paying the lease, they're paying their taxes, they're paying their land payment, doing everything through this hunting stuff. But it's unbelievable. But we're producing less cattle all the time. But Cattle on Feed report says that we're going to have 98.3% on feed. That's the one of the three quotes there, not the placements that I'm disagreeing with. I told you I thought they might be a little bit higher, but that on feed of 98.3, do we really think that over 98% of the cattle that were on feed last year are on feed this year? you know, we're not going to get to the bottom of it because I think the government needs to just squash that model, the jigs that they have for this, because it's got to be off. You know, maybe 98% of the weight of cattle are out there, but the head counts, no way. But that's probably what it's going to come back and say, and so you guys just absorb it like you want. But remember, it's going to be on Thursday this week because of Good Friday and the board being closed. But I want to tell you about a sale that's coming up here today on Wednesday. It's the Going to Grass special auction at Harrington Livestock Commission in Harrington, Kansas. They're a DVAuction broadcaster. Been planning this sale for quite a while. Going to have a nice offering of feeder cattle, a lot of stockers, grazing type cattle there too. But now some new additions. They're going to have some really top quality replacements there. So having all that in one special sale. And the Becker Cattle Company's got 25 fancy first calf heifer pairs there, and the calves are top quality, and all the work's been done. Kevin Winter's going to have a package of really fancy AI bred heifers in there, and then have several other really nice cattle in there. But whatever you're looking for, they're going to have it. You want to check out this sale, especially if you haven't checked them out before. Harrington Livestock Commission in Harrington, Kansas. They are on DVAuction every Wednesday, and the sale starts today at noon. I want to talk about your board for Tuesday. April live cattle futures up 85 cents at 204.80. June was up 72 at 199.80. Back months up 52 to up $1.10. April feeder cattle up 132 at 289.37. May was up 157 at 282.52. Back months 75 cents higher to 210 higher. Look at your grains, and they were all down just a pinch on Tuesday. May corn was down 3 3/4 cents a bushel at 481 1/4. Beans for May down 5 3/4 at 10.36, and hard red winter wheat for May down 2 1/4 cents at 5.53 a bushel. Haven't seen any fat cattle trade to speak of in your 5-area feeding region. Then we're working in the middle of the week. That makes me think that these feedlots have got their heels dug in, and even though packers are really calling around looking to try to get something put together, they're going to get hooked in and try to get all that market position back that they lost last week, and we'll see. I think they could probably do it if they'll just stick together and stick to their guns. The only cattle we've seen at all is one load in Nebraska late Monday selling at 208, and that's just one of those deals you can't understand why anybody would do that when you know the market's going to be higher. They did have the good fat cattle auction there at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. 2,300 head there for the biggest and best fat cattle auction in the nation. The market was steady to $2 higher on the prices from what I quoted last week. Conventional cattle, fed steers and heifers, selling from 205 to 212. Program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free, selling from 212 to 217. And it's nice to have a market maker there with competitive bidding in our fat cattle arena. Box beef cutout values were lower, but not much. Choice cuts down 20 cents at 335.43. Selects down 61 cents at 315.24. Your slaughter so far for the week, just up through the first 2 days, 234,000 estimated cattle slaughter. That's quite a bit better than the 226 we were at this point last week, and it's 10,000 less than we were this point a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Charlet, guys, you might want to think about introducing Charlet. You know it's going to give you more frame. It's going to give you the opportunity to put more pounds, and pounds matter and profit counts. And with Charlet you can gain all these things and still get industry acceptance, which is so important. But they've got a new website there, and it's poundsmatter.com, and that kind of goes with what they're talking about there at the Charlet Association. So check them out, guys. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Real-time index on DVAuction late in the day on Tuesday after all your sales had completed. Always up to date and current. Your real-time index was sitting at 286.13 That was up 89 cents. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 288.07. Your big sales on Tuesday, Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri, had 2,150 head through the ring. They had another just over 500 head through their in-house video sale they do with help from DVAuction. Market was really good. Last week they ended up canceling their sales because of the heavy rains and the flooding conditions and all that. But the way the market was, knowing that it was going to be down so hard, made it a lot easier to cancel that sale. And Randy Hoover made that decision to do that. And it helped a lot of producers because they didn't sell last week. Brought the cattle in this week. The market took right off where it was the week before. And so you need to be in a conversation with those auction market owners and the guys that are in charge of you selling your cattle, because there was a few producers that still brought cattle in because they weren't keeping track of what was going on. And the cattle, they went ahead and sold them on Wednesday cow day, and they didn't sell all that great because of the way the market was, and that's just the way it was. The ones that knew what was going on, held their cattle off, sold them this week, were tickled to death. But compared to 2 weeks ago, feeders are steady to $4 higher through the ring. Calves are $4 to $8 higher. Now, here today on Wednesday, they always have their cow sale with a lot of weigh-ups there, and they have one of the best weigh-ups sales there in the country. But they've got several big consignments of reputation replacements coming in here today on Wednesday. They're going to have a pretty big swath there, 120 head of red Angus 4-year-old cows there, bred to Charolais bulls. They'll have those mellow yellows, my gosh, and they sell so good. You want to get in on some of those if you're looking for replacements. Got several other smaller replacement deals, but then they're going to have a video replacement sale here today on Wednesday. Doesn't take them any time to do it. And I always kid Steve Anderson, especially his wife. I say it's so seamless, you know, because they do all the work and make it look so easy. They just turn the scoreboard TVs over to video, plug the video in, take off, and sell them there. But on video, John Warman there, and he is down in Morrilton, I believe it is, Arkansas. I'm not familiar with that community. I'm sure it's not too big. But down in Arkansas there a little ways, he's got 100 head of first calf heifer pairs, mostly black. They're home raised, bred to Angus and ultra black bulls there. But it's going to sell them right off the farm there, guys. And you can buy those right there on DVAuction if you're not able to get to the sale barn there in West Plains, Missouri. But check them out, guys, and you're going to like the way they do business there. Let's talk about some other sales. Beaver County Stockyards had 2,300 head, another lighter run for them. Market was, they were one of the few sales last week that still sold really well. And it's just the way it came together. And they had a really active market last week and a better offering, really. This week, the market was unevenly steady with spots as much as $5 lower on the feeder heifers, but still pretty good quotes there. Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri had 3,400 head, and their market, the price trends range from steady or higher to sharply higher on the calves. They were your National Beefwire stick out sale of the day. Check out this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights. On the steers, 260 head of 4-weight steers, average 464 at 410.12 on a weighted average. 158 5-weight steers, average 538 at 362.24. 136 head of 6-weight steers, average 633 at 325.94. And 404 head of the 8-weight steers in Kingsville, Missouri, had a weighted average price, or weighted average weight of 823, weighted average price of 289.33. Look at some heifers. 234 4-weight heifers, average 450 on the button at 375.10. Had several impressive consignments of feeder cattle there weighing in the 6s and 7s. 481 head of 6-weight heifers, average 664, weighted average price 301.85. and those are on feeder heifers, guys. 494 head of 7-weight heifers, average 732, weighted average price 287.29. And the most impressive quote that I saw out of Kingsville was one of those strings of feeder heifers there. They like to buy them there, so the producers are making them for them, guys. Check out these feeder heifers, be all black, 223 head, weighed 681 at 305 heifers, guys, to put on feed. How about some individual quotes from all around? How about Turlock Livestock Auction Yard in Turlock, California? 126 steers, weighed 724 and bring 335. One of the guys I work with, he had to call and check on that. He thought, man, maybe something went haywire on that quote coming in, but sure enough, it was a good one. How about North Platte Stockyards there in North Platte, Nebraska? They sell 145 steer calves, weighed 524 at $439.50. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday in your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come from my friends at Gordon Livestock Market in Gordon, Nebraska. Check this out. 85 steers, weighed 780, bring $319.50. Wow, congratulations to them. That's your feeder flash for Wednesday.